Welcome to the CT Sports Talent Show. My name is Christopher Saunders. I'm pleased to have on with me from Taft, the football program. Also coaches math too, I saw, and a little bit of part of track as well. James McCarthy is with me, was with West Haven for some time. If the name sounds familiar, his father, head coach of West Haven, the Westies, and they've had very, very good success in terms of their sports, not just their football. I know they lost a couple years ago to Staples, and that was a very good Staples team as well. And coincidentally enough, the head coach of that Staples team is now coaching at the college level at I think New Mexico State or something like that. So always good to see guys being able to do their thing at the Connecticut level and then move up to bigger and better things. But James, you're at Taft. You're doing the football side amongst other things. Appreciate you coming on, man.
I am. Thank you so much for having me, Christopher. I appreciate the opportunity. Big fan of the show.
Appreciate it. So I kind of just want to dive into the football stuff if we can, because you were telling me how you played a couple years at West Haven, then you went to Cho, and then with everything else involved, you know, the football side, what kind of drew you to the coaching aspect?
Yeah, absolutely. I was really fortunate to be surrounded by good football coaches my entire life. It starts with my dad, who we mentioned, Ed McCarthy, was a very successful coach at West Haven High School and had a good experience playing there as well as playing at Choate. That led me to an opportunity to go on and play at Dartmouth. Did not have the personal success I wanted to as a player. I was very limited by injuries, but was around a fantastic staff of coaches, many guys I still talk to frequently, and
Mhm.
was able to spend some time and work under them my junior and senior year. And it really set me on this path of diving fully into coaching. And it's been a little bit side to side at times, but I've landed right now I'm at Taft, and it's been fantastic so far in my first year.
So what position did you play as far as throughout your years?
Yeah, I played offensive tackle.
Okay.
High school, moved inside a little bit in college, guarded center,
Okay.
just the height, the length, but now mainly coaching the offensive line.
So I would say right now you're probably a little bit below your playing weight. Is that right? Just a
Yes,
little?
sir. Sorry.
Was it hard for you, James, to be able to go from, and in watching NFL games, and they occasionally will talk about offensive linemen and they'll bring up how the eating habits, they talk about, taking away just the game side, I see guys after they retire and they're on TV, they go from, I don't want to say they look like big, big, like fat guys, because they're not fat. I know they're built, but they go from that, and then a couple years later, they look like they're skinny minis, right? Like, how difficult was that for you to go from your playing weight to then it's like, all right, now I need to really kind of figure things out here. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. It's something I talk about quite a bit to our high school players who are on the other end right now of looking to add weight the correct way. And I
Hmm.
would say that is done through positive, healthy eating habits. You're going to have to eat quite a bit, right? You're going to maintain a lot of calories. You're going to burn a lot of calories. You need to fuel your body. But I think the better you construct your body, the easier it is when you are done, when it is time to transition to the real world. For
Hmm.
some guys, like the NFL players you mentioned, that might be at 40. For some of us, that's in your early 20s. I think the better it is built, the easier it is to scale it down. I had a coach say to me one time, it goes one of two ways. You either eat the same way and stop training, or you change what you eat and you continue training. So I tried to lean into the side of detailing those eating habits a little bit while training's still pretty hard. But yeah, like I said, right now I spend more time with guys on the other end, adding the weight, but it certainly is a reality of the position.
Take me into, if you can, really quickly before we go into your time with Taft as far as the football side. Give me like when you were playing, give me your Monday food. Like, what would you eat during the day? A typical Monday, since we're in a Monday.
Absolutely. Yeah, let's bring it back. When I got to college, it was a little bit light. It was 275. I wanted to get up to about 290, 295, which I did. I'd start my day off with the workout. Then it would be usually six eggs. Try to get some carbs in there as well. Potatoes for me, Irish guy like myself, always get those in. A
Attaboy.
lot of fruit, a lot of vegetables, got to maintain it. And really just being calculated with the protein. I'm a big chicken guy, fish. I find those easier to make for me, easier to prepare, as well as rice, building, again, really good habits, yogurt, easy. I couldn't really tell you an exact schedule day to day, but I would really just try to hit all those main food groups and just be pretty detailed about what was going in the body and being aware of how much I was burning.
It's amazing, 275. I'm just trying to get to 190. Gee,
Yeah.
and you're 275. I mean, what are you right now, if you don't mind me asking?
No, sure. I'm down to about 240 now.
Geez, 240 is still fantastic. I mean, very
On the way.
impressive. That's funny, man. But hey, very cool, man. That's good to be able to hear that. It's nice to hear the stories like that as far as kind of what happens after your playing career is done and how you acclimate to both. being a, I don't want to say a citizen, but being away from the game, but
Yeah,
also from the eating aspect, because offensive line, obviously, it's a totally different aspect from being within the lines and then being outside. James, I kind of want to hit you on, if I can, the Taft program, and I used to live in Watertown before I moved to Waterbury with my wife. Now we live in Town Plot. And I remember when I used to get the Republican American, or more so my parents used to get it, I used to always see how, again, because a lot of your games, I think all your games are on Saturdays, correct?
correct. Yes.
So a lot of times, because a lot of the high school games are played, especially during the day or on Fridays, because Friday Night Lights, there was a lot more of a focus on the Nepsac, especially on Taft, on Cho, on Avon Old Farms, and so on and so forth, and KO, Kingswood, Oxford. Um, what drew you to the Taft program? Because it is a very good program.
It is an excellent program. I have the opportunity to work under an excellent head coach in Tyler Whitley, who went to Taft. He graduated here in 2004. And I see the success that he's been able to have. I was introduced through my college coaches, which I mentioned to you before the show, and building those relationships, guys that I was able to work really hard for, said, hey, this would be a good opportunity for you for what you're looking at. The boarding school world is very different than the public school world. I am happy to say now that I have been a student and played and taught and coached at both, right? So I have a pretty good feel for what those look like.
Hmm.
Really do like what the impact that we're able to have on the kids, just in terms of, hey, they are away from home, right? They are eating on their own, as we were just talking about, making good choices with their bodies, right? Taking care of their schoolwork. Really, you can go all in and play a huge role. And I was fortunate to have some of those people who played that role for me, right? And be able to develop these guys who are motivated, who want to be here, who want to contribute to our program now and have success, but also go on to a great school, which we certainly want for them as well. And that's really the players, the type of young people you get to work with, and the coaching staff we have here really brought me.
From the time that you had at West Haven, and then even going back to your playing days, and then now being a coach, being the offensive line recruiting coordinator and such for Taft, what have you seen from the game? Because I'm sure it's changed a lot. I mean, it's amazing how, I always say for a lot of sports, basketball, football, baseball, the main ones, the game changes every 2 years, if not every other year, right? And honestly, it could change even midway through the year. I mean, it's just amazing how the games are able to evolve as much as they do, right? I mean, I know in football they're going to now change the kickoff, as far as the touchbacks. Now they'll be at the 35, I think, if I remember right. They want to get rid of the tush push. I mean, that was a big thing for Philly a couple years ago, and it stayed with them. Obviously, they won a Super Bowl and such. What have you seen from your both when you played and then now being a coach? How has the game changed in your eyes?
Yeah, that's a great question. The first thing that comes to mind, I would say in our league, in the Founders League, in prep school football, those Saturday games you mentioned, the level of competition has exploded in my time. And I started playing in this league in 2016. All right, so it'll be 9 years, and it is a different game, right? And I remind my players of that to keep myself humble. That guys, when I was playing in this league, it was a little different. There weren't too many of these guys that look like you. Try to boost them up a little bit. But there is just such an emphasis. I think a lot of families see the value of, hey, if this is what we do with our son or daughter in other sports, but let's just keep it football now, right?
Mhm.
What they can get out of it and the experience they could have really is worth often the time and financial investment these families make. So I would say the level of competition, the rosters have grown. Um, Recruiting, the exposure really sells itself in terms of getting students that want to attract themselves to the school.
Mhm.
So the biggest thing, just in terms of the way the game has changed, is that the level of competition Saturday to Saturday is fierce. And I would say in recruiting as well,
Mhm.
right? We I'll throw myself in there, but other coaches in New England, I mentioned Coach Whitley, as well as a few other heads coaches in our league, have done a tremendous job. And they use the phrase, a rising tide lifts all ships, of getting our players recruited, getting our players in front of eyes. Coming up May 12th, we have the New England Show Day, which we've been blasting out, trying to get around on Twitter, and essentially a list of schools. We try to run through them. I know Brunswick, Cheshire, Cho, ourselves, mapping it out. Avon and Loomis, Suffield finishes up at Springfield Central, Springfield, Mass, to get college coaches from all levels here to our state to come see our players, right? And at the national level, you see more and more Connecticut players, more and more New England players highly rated, highly recruited, going on to play Power Five football. And a big part of that has been the emphasis a lot of guys have made before me of let's get college coaches here, let's let them see, get the exposure for these kids. So to answer your question, the level of competition is going up. Those players are really good.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just come get those players.
What position would you say has, I don't want to say taken the next step, but is there a particular position in Connecticut that you feel like may, like, okay, so prime example, right? Aside from the stuff out, off the field with Georgia, Georgia's been known obviously for skill guys on their defense. Obviously, their defensive line, their secondary has been fantastic, and they've had some very nice running back positions because their offensive line is massive. Obviously, Brock Bowers is a tight end, but still, he's an outlier. You think about Alabama. Bama was known for wide receivers and again, defense, right? Miami kind of is a mix of both. And I can go on and on and on with other programs. For the state of Connecticut, is it offensive line that kind of takes the edge? Is it the quarterbacks? Is it wide receiver? Is it kickers? What position in Connecticut would you say is like the top, if you can?
That's a great question. I haven't thought about it, and I am definitely biased, but I'm going to have to say the offensive line.
Yeah.
Just what immediately comes to mind. A few of the players we were able to see last year. Will Black, offensive tackle at Choate, headed to Notre Dame. Matty Augustine, offensive tackle at Brunswick, headed to Notre Dame as well. Owen Alicine, offensive tackle at Avon, headed to Penn State. Legitimate power four players. That was the first thing I thought of when you asked the question. I think the offensive line, and of course, the guys that are blocking got to be pretty sharp too. We have some pretty exceptional players in our program as well. One of our defensive linemen, Jude Okeleke, is a FPS player himself at the nose position. So I would say at the line of scrimmage, keep it a little more broad, offensive and defensive lines to me. And again, I definitely have a jaded perspective, but that's what stands out the most right now.
With you coaching the offensive line, I mean, is it one of the like I would think, and I remember in my early years of broadcasting football, I had a wise man t tell me that offensive linemen love to go forward, not go back. They would rather go forward, and for people who may not know, going forward is their run blocking, and then if they're going backwards, they're pass blocking. Because when you could probably speak to better than I can, but when you're going forward you're able to kind of almost like you're pushing the big weighted thing that you do in practice. Whereas if you're going back, it's like, okay, where's the quarterback? Where's he going to be? You could be having multiple, schemes and guys twisting and stunting and all that. So, like, what is it from the offensive line standpoint, from your coaching side, that you can kind of bring to the table here?
Right. I tell our guys that great players do both just as well. All right. And they don't really, there's no reaction when the play comes in, if it's a run or a pass. They're not any more or less excited. But I would say, just in terms of physicality and the edge you want to set, right, how hard you want to be able to play,
Mhm.
it's easier for me to show that and to feel that in run blocking. I think that's really where you can, see some of these great highlights of guys, right, and of just consistently offensive lines that work together really, really well. You mentioned Philadelphia winning the Super Bowl, right? They, you know, they play in unison. There are five guys working as one. It's something every offensive line coach aspires to get to. Right.
Mhm.
So I would say our players enjoy overall working together. You also have more of an opportunity on the combination blocks. You may be working with somebody next to you up to a second level defender,
Mhm.
generally more so in the run game, and they really can establish your will and dominate the defense.
Now, you could, again, because of what you see with the high level of talent, I've noticed it at the high school level, but it's also skewed because, so I broadcast in the NVL. So you know about Ansonia, they run the hammer. They're all about their offensive line. Now, they will pass a little bit, but they use the hogs and they run the ball. And they run it effectively. They've had running backs going back to the 1970s that run for a gazillion yards, a bunch of touchdowns. I could go on and on and on with those names, right? Naugatuck runs the wing T. Torrington runs the single wing, occasionally the double wing. But the point is, though, a lot of these offenses in high school kind of run the same offense year in and year out. They don't really evolve. They're not like what they are at the college level and obviously the NFL level, where it's interchangeable from week to week, sometimes from quarter to quarter, from drive to drive, right? Um, what would you say as a coach, as far as when you see an offense and like what are you looking at when you are scheming up, when you're drawing up offensive plays for the week, or you're trying to see, are you fitting to what you have at the offensive line, right?
Yes, absolutely. I think any coach would tell you that football is about 99% having better players. right? And I think where you can maximize your player's strengths is the biggest thing. When you are evaluating an opponent, if you find an area where you may have an advantage, that's something you're going to lean into. But the best way to do that and prepare for it is really to understand and get a feel for where your team is strong, right? And what you do well. And that's certainly something I do focus on in terms of what will help us, what will benefit us in the run game. Well, let's start with who do we have playing in the game right now? Who's working together? What do they do well? Let's let them excel at it. And I think, you mentioned some of the other offenses. I know, guys are really able to build that even year to year. Got some familiarity. I spent some time in the wing T offense, and just, whoever your best players are, it's still going to tailor and change, tweak here or there a little bit of this is who we want to feature, right? This is who we really want to get the ball to. And I think it's the same thing to an extent with the offensive line of this is a type of block that one of our players does really well. Well, we would be doing ourselves and the kids a disservice if we didn't let them do it, right? And I think building it backwards from who do we have on our team, what do they do well, it's really a good way to look at it.
Do you think that because the NFL level, the last couple of years, it seems like the running back is back in vogue again? For years it was, or maybe not years, but for a long time it was wide receivers are the nice fancy thing. But again, I think what we're seeing with some of the rule changes and I mean, you could probably speak to better than me, but what happens at the NFL level trickles down to the college level, which then trickles down to the high school level. So would you say that the running back is back as the cool thing again, where kids want to play the position, but also two, I almost feel like in a lot of ways that's because offensive line play could be better. Now, I've heard when watching NFL games or college games, some will say that it's worse. I don't know how that is. You could probably speak to better than me. Where's offensive line played right now, offensive line play rather, at the college level in your eyes and at the Nepsac level?
I personally think it is improving on the way up in terms of the value of running backs. It shifts over time and it goes back and forth, right? And there was an explosion of passing offenses and defenses really changed the way they were structured, right? Two high coverages, people call it shell when you're watching the game on TV, as opposed to single high, which dominated football for many years. As a reactionary tool, right? Many offenses got smart and recommitted to running the ball. And I think you look at some of the successful teams in the NFL, Philadelphia, Detroit comes to mind, San Francisco, Green Bay, right? Having a good run game that may include other players in your running back getting the ball, right? Guys are creative and getting receivers involved, some of those star players. But I do think the offensive line play has certainly increased, particularly in the pass game. I think it's really impressive just turning on a college game and as well as the NFL. The athletes playing defensive line in today's game, right? How well they are coached, how well they're able to train, how much that's evolved over time, and the reactionary, right? As I mentioned, it's kind of a pendulum of there. I think there was a time in the NFL where the edge rushers had the edge over the offensive tackles, and I think the offensive tackles are starting to work back a little bit. So it's that constant chess match with one side going up, the other one countering and getting a little bit better. But I do, once again, I do have that partisan perspective, but I think the offensive line play is in a pretty good position right now, and all the levels of football that I'm familiar with.
What kind of team, while I have you for a couple more minutes, what kind
Yeah.
of team is Taft? I know obviously the season is not for some time, but again, it flies by, it comes quick between the practices and weight training and everything else. I know you guys have a different lesser. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't know what kind of rules you guys have compared to like the CIAC, where as far as practices go, you really can't do anything until the summer when you have a couple hours per week. I think two times per week, couple hours to be able to get some practice in, but you can't do pads, can't do other things until particular days. What's it look like for a Nepsac team like Taft up until the season?
Right. So it is a little different from the CIAC rules in that just the nature of our schools, right? Most of our roster will not be in Watertown over the summer. Our school has about 580 students, and 85% of those live on campus, right? So I mentioned earlier we have a star defensive lineman, Judo Keleke, who's from Nigeria. Our quarterback, Gilbert Kimron, he calls Malmo, Sweden home, right? So it's not like your CIAC schools who can get everybody to jump in the car and come over in the summer for a workout, right? Also, we have several players who will be on our team this fall who will be new, right? We take 6 postgraduate students in our league, and right now they are finishing up their high school tenure all over the country. We'll have younger guys come in as well and start new. So it's, they need to be more responsible about getting that working on their own. I think the way communication has changed, like you and I getting on a Zoom right now, makes that a lot easier. right? And that you do have time to meet with kids. You can call, you can text, you can send them PDFs of what this is. These are the drills I'd like you guys to get done on this Sunday. The
Yeah.
guys that are here, I know are doing it. The guys that are not, you are responsible to your teammates to get this done. So it looks a little different. Also here at Taft, we have students have an afternoon activity each season, right? So fall, winter, and spring. Many of our guys are playing baseball or playing lacrosse or they're throwing in track and field, right? And then they need to also scale their training into that, right? So I think the maturity that I talked about with most of our students being away from home and handling their own business, they need to have that mindset of, all right, I understand, I'm a great student all day. I'm a great baseball or lacrosse player or track athlete in the afternoon, right? But I still need to work in, right? Where am I going to get my lift, my positional work, my speed work, my agility work? It's part of the challenge for sure, but then also it's part of what has allowed our guys to do so well, the people that are mature and can handle it.
So what you're telling me is, what was it? Karake, you said is his name. He's playing baseball right now. Is he hitting tanks?
Oh, Kelike, Judo Kelike, he
Oh,
is a track
Karake.
star. He's out there, he's throwing the shot with myself. Yeah. So he's,
Okay.
he's doing fine. Yep.
Okay. I was thinking if he was on the baseball diamond hitting home runs, I'd be afraid he'd break some
I might have
windows
to
a
come
tad.
over. Yeah, exactly.
Because I
No,
know, because what, the baseball field's still at the school, correct?
yes. Yep.
Okay,
Beautiful.
'cause I do remember that because when I used to play and coach at Naugatuck, and then when I played for Oakville Legion, that used to be the home field for the senior Legion team. And I remember as a junior Legion guy going to some of the senior Legion games and seeing, being able to see the senior guys play. And it's the facilities are nice on the outside. I've seen the inside too. And my buddy, when we were in high school, he was at Taft for a year from Watertown, and then he went back to Watertown High School, that is. But I remember being in the weight room. I'm sure it's probably way different now. This was back in 20, what was this? 20, I don't know, 2010, I think. But the facilities look amazing, man. At least back then. I'm sure they're great now.
Yes, they've done a great job. It's certainly a priority at the school. And it's something that attracts our students and allows them to develop and to get better while they're here. We have a full-time strength and conditioning coach, Will Turner. He was a college assistant at Yale for quite some time in Boston U.
Nice.
And that's been a huge resource for us and to allow our kids to get better. And again, the facilities play a big part in that. And having functional space where they can go and get their positional work in, having a great locker room they're excited to get up to every day, and having a tremendous weight room.
James, I really appreciate you coming on. This was a lot of fun. I could talk to you forever about football or just Taft, but maybe I can get you back on sometime in the summer when we can kind of preview a little bit more with Taft and some of the guys. We can talk about that star player that you mentioned. I won't try to mess up his name again, but I really appreciate you coming on, man. This was a lot of fun.
You got it. Thank you so much for taking the time, Christopher. I appreciate it.
Always, I wrap things up here in the CT Sports Talent Show. Next time, stay safe. Remember, CT stands for Connecticut Talent. Enjoy and find them all. Enjoy the rest of your day, everybody, and be well.